very much, Jen. I'm now going to ask Michael Bradley to speak from the Right to Work campaign.
I know people saw a few weeks ago when Kate Riley went to the High Court and approved once and for all that what the government's workfare schemes were about was slave labour. Months before that, when the government had introduced these schemes, we were told it was a terrible thing to say. That this was about trying to get young people into work, it was trying to offer them proper training and the rest of it. But I think Joan was exactly right. What they've got on offer for people is actually makes the YTS schemes of the 80s look like a wonderful progressive day. We look back on, they are literally trying to make our young people and people on short-term hours and the rest of it now, right, so work for nothing. They are using the most draconian legislation that they possibly can at every level, right, about it. The sort of language they are using against claimants, the sort of language they are using at people who are being priced out of education, priced out of the opportunities to go to university or go to further education colleges because of the cuts in EMA and the rest of it is quite incredible. This is scapegoating, and we have to think about what the government's doing at every level, because they will scapegoat to divide us. Everybody in this room is hit in different ways, and that's what the government likes. Right? They hate us coming together. When they start targeting migrants coming over from Eastern Europe, you know what they are saying. Right? It's about they're trying to get one section of the population going against each other. Why is there a problem with housing? Why is there a problem with housing? Because the bloody Tories in the 50s and 60s were building hundreds of thousands of council houses every year. How many council houses are we building now each year? We know the story about this, right? So they are forcing us, right? They're trying to divide us at every level, and the problems have been created by them, not us, no matter where we're from, whether we're disabled people, whether we're young people, whether we come from other countries, right, and stuff, to work in this country and the rest of it, right? But we're all working class people, we all share the same problems, the same divisions on their side. They're trying to drive against us, and I think that's really, really crucial. I think the division between claimants and workers has to stop. We have to stop the idea that there's a problem. Or when people speak for the PCS, what are they saying? They're saying they do not want to go through the process of evicting families. They do not want to pass on the cuts to those families. And that's why it's really crucial that when there are people on strike, that claimants, that people from the different campaigns come down and we show solidarity for one another, because that's how we break down the division. We're all in the same boat in this one. We keep being told this by Cameron. We really are all in the same boat, and I think that's very important for us to say. I wanted to stick to what Andy was saying about practical ideas, really, because some of us were around when it happened and some of us wasn't around when it happened. So I want to talk a little bit quickly about the poll tax. Right, because the first thing I think we need to talk about when they've been through these right swathe of cuts, sometimes you think there's nothing you can do. That's what you really think when you're at home, when you watch it on the telly. Right, so what can I do about it? And that's why it's so important when two neighbours or three neighbours or four people start to get together, whether it's on Facebook or just having a chat over a cup of tea, because that's how it starts to break down. But the second thing, remember what Thatcher was like. She was invincible. She was somebody who was never for turning, right, and stuff about it. And we smashed that government. We absolutely smashed that government, right? And we have to start creating a movement from the ground that starts laying the basis for that, because these people are really nasty, but you've got to remember that they're weak. They're divided on almost every issue of government at the minute, and anybody who stands up, and what they want us to be is invisible. That's what they really want us to be. If working class people are quiet, and we just go along, what can you do, it's a law, what can you do, rest of stuff. That's what they want. Once we start to stand, they've got problems, and I think that means over the next few weeks, we've got to make sure that what's happened in Leeds around the bedroom tax, what DPAC have been doing, what other groups, we start to generalise the process around it. I want to make a couple of quick suggestions while I go through it. One is one of the things I've learnt out today, and I think lots of people as well and stuff, is we've got to spread the experiences. There's no point reinventing the wheel everywhere, right? Because in communities across the country and in trade union branches of the country, people are trying to struggle with this, right, and we've got to try and generalise that. It seems to me these kind of forums, if they were held in Leeds, in Liverpool, in Manchester, in Bristol, and the rest of it, could be really crucial. But also, once we've gone through the first wave around April, and we've had the protests, and we've had the demonstrations, and we've had the sit-ins and the occupations and the rest of it, we need to bring it together again. I remember going to the National Anti-Poll Tax Federation's meetings. They were really important, not about people speaking for bleeding top tables, because you learned, you exchanged experiences and the rest of it, and we can't let ourselves be divided off, right, and just fight in our own community. We've got to try to put it together, really, stuff. So the last couple of things I wanted to say is this, really. One is labour. And this has come up in lots of in the workshops and the rest of it. It seems to me, it's brilliant if Labour decides they're involved in demonstrations next Saturday. It's absolutely brilliant if they are. But I think we've got to say a couple of things about Labour with the cuts over it really. If the Labour councillors refuse to pass the cuts through, if they refuse to allow evictions to happen, what about it? It will stop it in its tracks. And there is a responsibility on them people though. They are our political reps. We expect the Tories to do it to us. We expect the Lib Dems to do it to us. But these councillors are supposed to be different. And I think in every area we should be sending open letters, pledge sheets like they've done in Camden and the rest of it, saying to the councillors, come on, it's really good that you are opposing the cuts or you are speaking, but you have to go the next further. Don't implement the cut. Don't do it. I said it before, so I won't be boring. I said it before, but I'll try and say it again about it. It's about the 20th of March, right? Because the 20th of March now is a big day, right? So one is, right, he's going to get up Osborne, and everybody thinks they've been nasty so far. Right, once they lost their happy AAA status, you have a look at what they're going to do to us now. Right, so back, because it won't be them who's making cuts for them. They ain't going to be talking about, they are going to drive this through now, right, about it. And so we've got two brilliant things happening on that day. The first thing is that 250,000 civil servants will be standing up. When he stands up, there'll be picket lines outside Westminster, all down Whitehall, in every part of the country, of people who are trying to fight for something better. And that means instead of us feeling isolated, suddenly our side's on the move again. Suddenly our side, 250,000 people stuff is out of it. But I think on that day, when they announce the cuts packages they're going, every town, every city, we've got to have protests. We've got to have protests, right, stuff that do start to oppose what they're doing. But also that's the last thing, we've got to start raising an alternative. I think James is exactly right. See, what are we forward in this situation, right, about? We have to start talking this basic. Over the issue of housing, there was a basic thing, build homes. Right, so how many building workers are unemployed? I know this is basic stuff we all know, but a lot of building workers are unemployed. Trust me, right, about it, right? If we were building homes, if we were starting to build community projects, if we were starting to try and get ourselves out of these problems and stuff by putting people to work, crazy idea, isn't it, right? By putting people to work in real jobs where young people have apprenticeships and terrible things like that, like they used to have in the old days, right? So I think we have to do both those things, but it seems to me that the 20th is a big deal. And the last thing I'd say about it as well, just one, people talk about dates. Right, the Tory party are meeting in Manchester on the 29th of September. Now, this ain't the short campaign we're involved in, we all know. The April stuff is the beginning of it. The evictions and the rest of it will start much later in some areas over some issues around the bedroom tax and the rest of it. And I think we have to get a local situation where any cut that goes through, any eviction, no working class family is left alone at their front door with the bailiffs that they know they're Manchester, I think a good thing would be everybody's been affected by the benefits cuts. We go up to Manchester, we surround that conference and we say, well, you are not sitting here with your smug faces while our communities are destroyed. We have to fight back with a strike weapon, we have to strike back with by marching, and we have to make sure there is no single eviction in this country, because working class people will stop it in its tracks.
That it is effective, that we are starting to see the beginnings of groups coming together and finding common ground and finding ways in which they can work together to strike back against all of these things that we've been hearing about. And I think, you know, we've had some fantastic ideas, particularly around getting some sort of coordinated calendar so that people can plan their activities, so that people can clearly see what's on the agenda and how they can work and add strength to those things that are existing or build support for things that they want to do by putting up there. So I think that's a fantastic idea. I think around sharing experiences, I think that's exactly what we need to do. We need to be sharing everything. We need to be sharing our experiences. We need to be sharing the networks and the tools that we already have. We need to be sharing the things that are going wrong and learning from them. I think that's really, really important. I think the idea of having not just more benefit justice local summits, but a national platform for bringing all of those local groups together is a fantastic idea. I think, you know, that the groups themselves need to get together and work out the mechanics of that and how it can be done. I think there was a suggestion for a housing summit from the private tenants group, and I think that's a fantastic idea. And I think we look at the other areas, maybe around social care or other things that we can bring people around specific issues and join up workers and users together of those public services and make sure that it's one message coming crystal clear from both ends. I think really getting out into your communities, calling those local meetings in your local community halls, in your local church halls, wherever it is. And I think the most important use at that time, as well as giving our message, is locally on the ground. We need to start listening, because part of being ready for when all of this is coming in is actually being there to hear what people are saying, to hear their stories, and to be able to give people that space, and not to be just coming at them with what should be done and what can be done, but actually taking the time out to say, what's happening? What's happening with you? What do you want to do about this? To offer some sort of tool, and to be there and to be prepared, for whatever people want to commit to, whether that's the kind of petition or collectivism, or whether that's the kind of getting out on the streets, which we know what works, which is provoked response, and which has been one of the most effective ways demonstrations and strikes have really got through. They're really starting to make people sit up and take notice, and we have certainly raised the levels of awareness of what's going on. So I think the message as we come into the summer, particularly through April, is all is not lost. We are doing a lot. We need to do more. We need to pull all these strands together at the top and at the bottom, and we need to make sure that we're hearing and listening and offering people alternatives to what's happening. I think what we need to do before we do anything about breaking up is put our hands together for the fantastic work that the organisers have gone to put on. Magnificent achievement, I think, to get your brains working, to get everybody together, keep people interested, and come out with some really creative, tangible stuff that we can take on from today. I know that there will be a follow-up that everybody who's here will be made aware of what's come out of today and what that plan is to then take it forward. And it just remains for me to say thank you to you, because without your efforts and contributions, there wouldn't be anything. So again, thank you all very much. And I'm just going to quickly make sure I have all the right dates, which I probably haven't, but just as a quick reminder, on the 13th of March, on Wednesday, we have the Independent Living Fund Vigil at the Royal Courts of Justice, 12:30. On the 16th and 30th of March, we have 35 to 40 bedroom tax demonstrations around the country. Next Saturday, on the 16th of March in Islington, we have a public demonstration against the sell-off and reduction of services of the Whittington Hospital, meeting at Highbury Corner at 11:30. Really important to get out to that. On the 18th of March to the 24th, the Boycott Workfare Week of Action. And we know how successful that was last year. We really want to plug that, support it on the streets and online, and give Boycott Workfare every effort of support. On the 19th of March in Islington, we have a public meeting around the benefits and welfare changes. There are some leaflets here at the front if people want to come and take them. Some of the people you've heard from today will be speaking again at that meeting, and we also have some other people, including MPs, DPOs, and the PCS will be back again. On the 20th.
The March is the JR against the privatisation as well in the High Court. It's 9:30 to 1:30 feature.
Next Saturday outside Town Hall to go to a public meeting to discuss
I just got a couple more for you because I think you're really Again, I can't reiterate strongly enough, the PCS have taken this challenge onto the front foot against this government on budget day. Get out on the streets, support your local picket line, send a message to the government. On the 23rd of March, Barrett Spring, this is the first step, the thin end of the wedge. If it happens in Barrett, it's coming to a community near you. Do not allow them to outsource the whole of public services for that borough or any other borough in the country. And watch out in April for UK and the 1,000 Mothers March in Scotland. Bye bye, thank you all.